report computer synchronization.
Now entering the nexus of geekery and guy world. In 3, 2, 1, mark.
Hello, IT? Have you tried turning it off and on again?
This is the Dudes in Hyperspace podcast. Presented by IJMBooks.com.
Hey kids, welcome back for a Christmas-themed edition of the Dudes in Hyperspace podcast. I am your host, Ian J. Malone, going to be joined in a bit by my usual partners in crime, Dave Daniels and Scott Esther. Before we get to them, though, we have a wonderful interview lined up for tonight that we've been teasing for a little while in the spirit of the holidays, if you will. So we're going to bring in that gentleman in here in just a second and chat with him about what he's got going on in the book world and whatnot. Before we do that, though, you know the usual laundry list of stuff. If you want to know more about the show, you can find us online at dudesinhyperspace.com. Go there, buy merch, maybe even become a sponsor if you're so inclined. We also do the social media thing on Facebook and Twitter. You can find us on the tweet machine with @thehyperdudes, and you can find us on Facebook by searching for our group. That is aptly titled the Dudes in Hyperspace Podcast. Finally, if you've got a question for one of our Dude Mail segments, you can get those in time for our next show, and that can be done via social media or the old school method that we love around here called email, dudesinhyperspace@gmail.com. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the guts of this thing, man. It's Christmas time, one of our favorite times of year on this show, so it made sense to go out and bring ourselves in an expert, if you will, in the matters of the holiday season, and that would be none other than Charlotte-based author and host of the Charlotte Readers podcast, author of the Christmas Courtroom trilogy, Mr. Landis Wade. Welcome to the program, my friend.
Hey, man, Ian, it's so great to be with you. I love your energy, man. I really do. and great to be here at Christmas time as well. I mean, something positive, right, coming out of a year that's just been so full of, well, I don't even want to say the word. I don't know
Sure.
what this is. I don't know what this is rated. So
no, yeah. I mean, we're PG-13 around here. You know, we're a bunch of guys that sit around and talk about guy-related stuff. But at the same time, we got listeners who'll listen to this show in the car, and they may have a kid in the backseat or something like that. So if you hear it on network television, you're square on this show. But no, I feel you, man. This was actually a first for me and my family in our house. I'm normally a stickler. I don't put up Christmas decorations before Thanksgiving. Like, I was just raised that way, man. You can't forget about Thanksgiving. You do Christmas the day after, all about it, but not before Thanksgiving. This year, my wife and I had to talk about it, and I was just like, babe, if there's ever a year to be flexible, it's 2020. So the tree went up about a week ago.
I just hope it lasts. And I got my directive the other day too, because this in this time in which we live, you can't go to the stores like you could. And I usually wait until the very last minute. And I've been given dates by which Amazon will ship now to be put in my calendar, so I know what my last shopping day is.
Nice.
because usually it's Christmas Eve, and that won't work this year.
That is a man who has got himself a strategy, sir. Well done. Yeah. Well, let's get into a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do. Obviously, folks around the Charlotte-Mecklenburg area and the literary community know you very well. For people who listen to this show, maybe not so much. You are truly one of the most unique authors that we have had on this show in terms of your background. Per your bio, you are quote-unquote a recovering trial lawyer. You're also a dog lover, and as mentioned, you are host of the Charlotte Readers podcast. You're also author of a number of different works, including short stories and books, most notably the Christmas Courtroom trilogy that we talked about. And also want to note that the third book in that series took home holiday honors in the 12th Annual National Indie Excellence Awards. So kudos on that. You've also been recognized by the North Carolina State Bar in a short story contest. You've also had some of your nonfiction stuff, like The Deliberation, I believe it is, or The Deliberation was a fictional short story, but then the Cape Fear debacle and First Dance were nonfiction works of yours that have been recognized. And then finally, man, I mean, you've been named and featured in a ton of places that everybody around here knows, including Writer's Digest, the Charlotte Observer, Flying South, and so forth. So I mean, from lawyer to writer, man, I can't even fathom and process, like, how does that work? So the floor is yours, sir. Go nuts. Explain.
I'm still trying to fathom that too, which is a perfect place to be with the dudes in hyperspace, right? You never quite know where you are in the universe.
That is a true story, sir.
I'm somewhere in about to kick into warp speed, I think. I don't know. Who knows? But, so I like to say, did you hear the one about the lawyer that walked into a podcast studio? Because I exited stage left after a 35-year career as a trial lawyer and decided to do something I didn't know anything about. A few years before that, I wrote my first book at age 58. Entered that short story contest you talked about. Thank you for mentioning that. Started thinking that I would much prefer to write about conflict on a daily basis and experience it on a daily basis, because I'd been experiencing the world of conflict for 35 years. And I really enjoyed the trial work. I enjoyed being in the courtroom, but that's not all what litigation is, because, 95% of the cases never go to court. The stakes are too high. People settle. So you end up trading discovery and taking a bunch of depositions and not smoke-filled anymore, used to be these smoke-filled conference rooms. And I had done it for 35 years, and I was just, kind of looking for something different. And when I wrote that first book, and I can talk about that in a little bit, but I just got this idea that I wanted to do something more creative in my 60s. And so I said, okay, I'm gonna step out. I didn't step out entirely. I still serve as an arbitrator for the American Arbitration Association. They assign 4 or 5 cases to me a year, and I get to play judge, make a little bit of money doing that. But I don't have to do the day-to-day, in the big firm, being a partner, all that stuff. I can actually focus on creating, and that's what I decided to do. So back to my original question, did you hear the one about the lawyer that walked into a podcast studio? That was me. I went down there and decided I was going to try something I knew nothing about, and grabbed a couple of folks from a writer's group, and I said, you're going to be my first guest, because I don't know what I'm doing, and went into the studio, started playing with the dials. My wife said, I think I said she agreed that I didn't know the difference between a mixing board and a mixing bowl, and she corrected me and said that I didn't even know what a mixing bowl was. So, I had that going for me. That's sort of the explanation. I mean, it's not a logical shift. I've had several people talk to me about, why in the world would you do that? And I have this theory. I was interviewed on this, it was called a Human Lawyer Podcast. I like the title because, you have to put human in front of it, because they got to find the lawyers that are humans to ask them to be on the show. But they were kind of focused on that particular issue. And I told them, I said, there comes a time in a lawyer's career when if they don't get out, it's too late. It's kind of like the Hotel California,
Sure.
You can check in, but at a certain point, you ain't going to be able to check out.
Yeah.
And that happens to lawyers sometimes if they stay too long. They start saying, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, I decided I was going to try to figure out something else to do, and I've really enjoyed this shift.
I got to say, before we go any further, anybody who wants to drop a Fat Eagles reference on my show is always welcome to come back. So, well done on that. You're preaching. You're definitely pulling my strings there, my heartstrings. But yeah, all right. Well, you actually touched upon this a second ago, and I had this in my list of questions that I wanted to talk to you about. Obviously, being a trial lawyer, man, high stakes, conflict, personalities clashing. That's very, very much a part of what you do in that line of work. I can only imagine how that drives you as a writer. I would imagine that gives you a very unique insight into, the human condition, man, the way people operate. So talk about how your former career kind of impacts what you do now.
You are absolutely right, Ian. It is filled with people who want to win, filled with people who are fighting over either a principle or money, sometimes both. And the stakes get high, and they get even higher when there's more money involved or when the principles are high. And, people lose their tempers. There are juries, there are judges, there are things that go bump in the day and the night in these situations. And, I have experienced it, and it does carry over into my writing. Although truth be told, I like to add a little bit of a humorous element to it. So I enjoy thinking back to those times when the funny things happened, in those situations. Something happened in court that had the jury and the judge and both sides laughing, or happened in the deposition where everybody, despite their tensions, kind of dropped back and said, yeah, that was a good one, So I try to work that into the writing as well.
Yeah, I kind of gathered based off of what I've seen of your stuff online that there is a light tone to it. I mean, the holiday stuff, obviously notwithstanding, that is very much a part of what you do, and we'll get into that here in a minute. But one thing I did want to ask you, kind of in the theme of the episode, man, the theme of the day. Why Christmas? When you set out to write your first novel project, clearly you had written a lot of stuff in short form, short stories, nonfiction, fiction. But when you set out to put pen to paper on a novel, and anybody who's ever tried knows that's a massive undertaking, you put a lot of thought into what you want that to be. Why Christmas when you set out to do that?
Yeah, so, serendipity sometimes has a way of launching writers into projects, and for me it happened one Thanksgiving, I believe it's 2014, and it's a time of the year when we give thanks, of course, but we kind of step back from the normal difficulties and stresses of our job. We're with family, we have a long weekend. I would use that time over the years to maybe write a little bit. And I would never finish anything, right? Because I'd get back to the law practice. I'd get back into the cases I was working on. But for some reason, I was in my study that night, and I was working on a little story. And my wife always puts in that movie, Miracle on 34th Street, on Thanksgiving Day.
Sure.
And it got to that scene, and I could hear it in the other room where they're coming in to the courtroom, and they're going to prove once and for all through the mail delivery that this is the one and only Santa Claus. And it got me thinking. I said, well, I've got this story. It's set in the courtroom, but I wasn't really going with Christmas. I said, I wonder if I could write a Christmas story set a couple of days before Christmas, where Christmas was on the line. And if this young lawyer didn't win the case, then Christmas wouldn't come for hundreds of thousands of children. And it just started my mind working, and it was really fun. It was that time of year when you were thinking about Christmas anyway. And the reason it was so enjoyable for me was I didn't try to do more than what my skill set was at the time. I mean, I didn't know anything about point of view at the time. I really hadn't studied writing. I knew about the courtroom, and so what I did was I picked a victim, I picked a defendant, I picked Christmas, and I started putting witnesses on the witness stand in front of a curmudgeon judge who was about to retire 2 days before Christmas. And before I knew it, I had a story. And I would come home at night, and my wife would say, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Well, I'm going into my study to find out what happens next."
Nice. So I'm going to go ahead then and take that to mean that you are what we call in the writing community a pantser and not a plotter.
I was at that time, but of course, Ian, what we do as writers and authors, we continue to learn, and we continue to go to take classes, and we continue to start second guessing ourselves.
Sure.
And so I started to, I realized that as a pantser, if you're writing a mystery, you can get down some rabbit holes and have a hard time finding your way back. So I've started now in my writing, if I'm writing a longer piece, to at least start thinking about plot points as I go. So but I haven't done a full-blown outline yet, but I'm doing a lot more than I did for that first one.
Sure. Well, and not to get too far off down the craft rabbit hole, because as writers, we can do that all day long.
Exactly.
But yeah, I heard somebody say once that, listen, my outline is like my road map. All right. If I'm driving from Raleigh, North Carolina to Tallahassee, Florida, and I'm cruising through Savannah, Georgia, and I see something, a sign on the side of the road that says, hey, 50 miles away is the world's biggest ball of yarn. Well, I might want to see that. I didn't know that was there. I want to go see that. So you pull off and you go see it, and you look at that. It's the world's biggest ball of yarn. But then my roadmap is there to show me how to get back on the road to Tallahassee from there. So that's all it does. It doesn't mean that you've got to just be completely locked into that. You can do other things. It just helps to keep you on the path.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy, because really it wouldn't be as much fun if it was all locked in, would it?
Sure. No, there have been plenty of instances when I've written stuff when I have a eureka moment in draft 2. And
Yep.
I had no clue that was going to be there, that was going to happen, but it came out on the page, and it was like, oh, well, yeah, we're going to keep that, and you go buff out some of the blemishes and weave it into what you had originally created or envisioned for that stretch, and away you go. But okay, so back to you. You put out in 2015. This is the Christmas Heist. This is the first in what becomes a trilogy. Did you know at that time you were going to write a full blown trilogy of books, or did you wrap the first one and then kind of know, oh, I could do more of this?
Yeah. So the story is that I was still practicing law. I still hadn't really decided I was going to retire or at least go part time as an arbitrator, and I really wrote it pretty quickly and gave it to my family as a Christmas gift that year. And I've told this before, but my kids looked at me like I'd given them socks or something, it's like, and so, but then it kind of leaked out and some of my law partners read it and then they shared it with other people. And then somebody said, you should get an editor and you should work on this, which is exactly what I did. And it got published for the next Christmas. And then when I did that, it's kind of like, I don't know, I'm a fly fisherman. So they say the tug is the drug. Once you catch that first fish and it really bends that rod down and you're fighting it. Well, that was kind of like what when I went out to that book signing and I met people and they started giving me feedback and they liked the book. And then it was Christmas time again. And I thought, what if, and then that launched me into the second book. And so I worked on the second book and put it out the next year and really didn't know whether I was going to write 5 books, stop at 2 books, whatever. I was still practicing law. But then I had this idea after the second book came out about how I would bring it together, and it made perfect sense to write it as a trilogy. I like things that come in 3s, and, so I came up with this idea, which turned out to be a good one, and wrapped it up by focusing a lot on the antagonist from the first 2 books, what I call the evildoer, and the one who was trying to frustrate all the lawyers' efforts to save Christmas. Turns out he had a story that people didn't expect.
Nice. Yeah, that's always a trip whenever you create what I call a B character, and then all of a sudden they kind of come into their own, and next thing you know, they've got a standalone novel.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, those are good times. Well, okay, so you wrapped your Christmas Courtroom trilogy at 3 books. I feel you on that. I tend to like things in 3s myself. So, I mean, is there any future for that series? Maybe moving forward, do you do maybe a spin-off book or 2 of that with some of the other characters and kind of keep playing in that sandbox? Or, I mean, what are you working on now? The last book in that series came out in 2017. So, fictionally, what are you up to these days?
Yeah, so when you decide that you're going to retire from the practice of law and you take a year to kind of put all that in place, and then I went through a situation of caring for my elderly parents and moved them into a retirement community. And then my father died at the end of 2018 and we dealt with that. So there wasn't anything coming out in 18 and then 19, I was getting kind of my feet wet with the podcast. And then in 2020, really got focused on even more episodes for that. And I was starting to write some more. I've done more short works, but I'm working on something now. I just crossed the 50,000 word mark, so I feel like I'm finally making progress, so, hopefully it'll be a book here, at least a rough draft of a book here in a couple of months, and I'll start editing it and getting it ready for next year. It won't be a Christmas book. I've said Christmas 3 times, and I want to let that breathe for a little bit, Ian. I might come back to that in a few years, but I want to let those characters breathe for a moment and think about how I might go back. Because I don't know, I don't want to give anything away with some of the characters, but, I just decided I think I want to go do something different for a little bit and then come back to that later.
Sure. Oh, yeah. No, I totally know what that's like. I did space opera for 3 books, and then I decided I wanted to essentially go write a alt history thing that became Louis L'Amour in space with the lost colony of Roanoke Island. Like it was a blast to write.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, listen, you can't talk about Landis Wade. We've already touched on this a couple of times already in this interview, and not talk about the Charlotte Readers Podcast. You are really among the who's who in the Charlotte Mecklenburg area when it comes to the literary scene, and particularly as it pertains to audio. How did you get started with that? How long have you been a part of the Charlotte Readers Podcast? What was the genesis of that? How did that get started?
It started with a bad back. I had a bad back, and I was getting a massage, and it so happened that the massage therapist had been a DJ in Austin, Texas, and I had read an article about podcasting because I was trying to think about, honestly, okay, if I was going to try to do some kind of author platform, would it be a blog? No, I don't want to do a blog. Would it be, something else? No, I don't want to do that. But I'm kind of curious about podcasting, and if I could engage with authors and promote other authors, that'd be a way to kind of start building an author platform without talking about myself necessarily. And kind of like what you do, Ian, when you're promoting other people, when you do this kind of thing, not only do you meet people, you learn new things about writing, you make connections, and, by doing good work for others, they also will mention you from time to time. So I thought that might be something worth trying. And she was actually the one that went with me for the first time to the studio and told me which buttons to push. And that's kind of, I experimented a little bit the fall I was about to retire, and I recorded, I think it was sort of 11 episodes I called season 1. And I got some good authors from the Charlotte area to come in and do it. And they were very good sports because they knew I didn't know a thing about what I was doing. And I did have the advantage of having been a lawyer who'd asked a lot of questions in my career, but I had the disadvantage of being a lawyer who'd asked lawyer-like questions in my career. Right. So what I had to do was I had to take that experience I had as a lawyer and drop back a bit, because as you know, and you do a very good interview, Ian, I've listened to what you do on the podcast, but there is an art to interviewing, and it's taken me some time to unlearn some things I knew as a lawyer and kind of blend it with what a podcaster needs to do. Because the one thing that, you learn as an interviewer is that it's not about the interviewer, it's about the guest. And so being able to ask good questions and bring out information about the guest, which you're really good at too, is what I've been working toward. And I learn new things every day. I learn about space and silence and asking questions. And so long answer to a short question, but I got into it because I thought it'd be fun. And I figured since I didn't know a thing about it, it'd be worth trying, because why not?
Sure. Well, we used to have an expression back in the radio biz and in the music world, and that was that the music is the star. Nobody wants to listen to a DJ go on the air and just ramble on and on and on and on and on. They turn on because they want to listen to the music. Right. And I think when you're an interviewer, and that's the platform that you're doing, that's the service that you're providing, the listeners are there because they want to hear something fresh and new, and that's not the host. So now I feel you. It took me quite a while to be able to wrap my noggin around that. Too. I'm a gabber. I have no problems talking. Anybody who knows anything about me will tell you that guy can talk. Yeah. So that's a trip. But now you mentioned when you went into the studio, around what time was that? Like 2015, 2016?
No, that was 2018 in the fall. And so I've only been really podcasting for about 2 years now. And I get kind of this obsessive compulsive thing sometimes when I take on these projects. And so I've now released over 150 episodes.
I was going to say, you're pretty prolific for a guy that's only been doing this since 2018.
Yeah, and so what's happening is I'm tailoring and revising, as we always do, trying to figure out, what's the right length of a podcast. And at one time I figured it out. It was the point at which it becomes boring, So whatever that time period is, if it's 10 minutes, that's your time. If it's an hour, then that's your time. But I do think people, sometimes want different things. So in 2021, we're going to try basically around a 30-minute interview, but then I'm going to throw some additional content over on my Patreon channel with the authors on craft and writing life, stuff like that. So, just to give a variety. But it's been a learning experience.
Nice. Well, Charlotte area is North Carolina state as a whole is pretty rich with writers, and big shout out to the NC Writers Network folks for bringing a lot of us together. The Chuck Fioris and the Ed Southerns of the world, they do a great job over there. But Charlotte in particular is pretty thick with you guys, man. I know in my neck of the woods in genre, sci-fi, fantasy, all of that. I see a lot of those faces at cons, whether it's John Hartness over at Falstaff Books or Gail Z. Martin. A lot of those folks are regulars. You've interviewed a lot of writers from that area on your podcast. Who are, some of the greatest hits, if you had to go back in time and pick 3 or 4? What are like the big ones that you really look back on and say, man, that was a great conversation for whatever reason?
Yeah, now you're going to make all the ones mad at me I don't mention now, Ian. So.
Well, we're on listen here, listener folks. We're on a time crunch. My man doesn't have to recount. He doesn't have the time to recount 150 some odd episodes and names. So we're just going to fly this. You guys throw the hate mail at me on the Twitter machine.
Yeah, well, some of the early ones, there's a well-known writer in Charlotte, Tommy Tomlinson. He wrote in the Observer for years, and he wrote a book called The Elephant in the Room. I had him on the show early in 2019, and that was a wonderful episode. He talked honestly about, his difficulties with weight, and it was just a really genuine episode. I've had Judy Goldman on. Judy is a well-known memoirist from the area. And writes great memoir. Tracy Curtis is a humorist, and there's a lot of New York Times bestselling authors in the area. I had Gavin Edwards on, and he talked about his books. John Buchan as well, and then interesting one, Scott Seifert. And this kind of gets into something I'm kind of working on now. But Scott, I interviewed about the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence. I do not just fiction, but I do nonfiction. He wrote a very interesting book about whether the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence is a true thing or not. And we really dove into the details there and got down into the, whether or not the Declaration of Independence of 1776 was a plagiarism of what we first did here in Mecklenburg County in May of 1775. So wow. That was kind of a fun episode. So, and Tom Hanchett he's known as Mr. History in Charlotte. He did a book on the New South City, and we talked about that at my first live podcast at Dinner and a Podcast, but that got shut down when COVID came along. So, Bob Inman was on. He was on WBT for years. He had a great book called The Governor's Lady, Political Intrigue. And, I could go on and on. I had Gail on, as you mentioned. So I've tried to do a lot of different genres on the show, both in terms of the fiction world and in the nonfiction world as well. And it's just been a lot of fun. And you're right, the North Carolina Writers Network is great. We also have some great local writing groups, the Charlotte Writers Club and the Charlotte Center for Literary Arts. But North Carolina's kind of got this thing, the Writing Estate. I can never spell it right, but that's what they call themselves,
Yep.
And it's true because we got we may have more authors than we have lawyers, and that's kind of a troubling statistic in some respects, for the lawyers anyway.
Hey. All righty. Well, listen, we're starting to run down on time here, but I can't let you get out of here without doing a little thing we like to call the 2-minute drill.
The 2-minute drill.
Alrighty, 2-minute drill, as everyone knows, is a rapid-fire segment whereby I will ask our guest here a couple of questions, and he will answer with one of 2 or maybe 3 answers. So in spirit of the day, this is all going to be of the Christmas variety, so buckle up. It's going to be fun. All right, question number 1. Best Christmas beverage for grown-ups, the spiked eggnog or the hot toddy?
As a nod to National Lampoon Christmas Vacation, I'm going with the spiked eggnog.
There we go. I don't know, man. I got a recipe for a toddy. If we ever can get together one day, I'll hook you up with that. I might can turn you on that one.
I'll drink the toddy, but I want to give just cousin Eddie a shout out there.
There you go. Well, Christmas Vacation actually gets another nod later on down the list, so you're on the right track. Next question: true or false? Fruitcake is the most overrated party food of the holidays.
True plus true.
I don't know, man. Fruitcake gets a bad reputation for me. I was raised on some fruitcake. I dig on it.
Okay.
I was. All right. Better Christmas comedy: Home Alone, Christmas Vacation, or Elf?
Has to be Christmas Vacation for me.
Okay, all right. I could see that. As a child of the 80s and 90s, I'm going to go with Home Alone, but I definitely defer to your judgment there.
I mean, I have to, because my books are a cross between My Cousin Vinny and Miracle on 34th Street, so I'm going with the humor. Yeah.
Oh, good grief. My wife's going to go buy it just for the My Cousin Vinny reference.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. All righty, next question. Better Christmas Carol, Jingle Bell Rock, or Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer?
I like Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer because it reminds me of the best country music love song ever written.
All right.
And you know what that is, of course. I was drunk the day my mama got out of prison.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That is awesome. Alrighty, next question, a little bit different now. All right, on this one, you have your choice. You are casting for your own Christmas film. Who is going to play Santa Claus? Your choices are William Shatner, John Goodman, or John Candy.
I'm going to go with John Candy for the humorous side.
Man after my own heart. You can't go wrong with Candy, man. Alrighty, better Christmas snack food, gingerbread cookies, or peanut brittle?
I like the gingerbread.
Okay. All right, I'm going to split with you on that one. I'm more of a peanut brittle man myself, but I have my wife to thank for that. She makes that for me special every year. All right, final question on this Christmas edition of the 2-Minute Drill, and this is a biggie, sir, so you better be prepared to answer this the right way. True or false, Die Hard is a Christmas film?
True.
Attaboy. Attaboy, Landis Wade. Way to bring the heat, man.
It is, man. It is. I love how they have the background music going on.
Oh, sure. Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho. I mean, what else do you need? That's writing gold.
Exactly. I thought you said this was a PG-13 podcast. So,
Hey, man, we'll let fathers explain that reference to the kids in the car. That's not on us, thankfully.
Exactly.
All righty. Well, Landis Wade, it has been an absolute treat to have you on the show, man. Before I let you get out of here, tell the people where they can find out about your books, where they can find out about you, and where they can find out about your podcast. So website, social media, you name it, go.
Yeah, man, thanks. LandisWade.com, and that's easy to find. Then CharlotteReadersPodcast.com, and we're on Facebook at Charlotte Readers Podcast, and we're on Instagram at Charlotte Readers Podcast and on Twitter at Charlotte Reader.
Okay. Now, you also have a Patreon page, if I remember right, and what can folks expect to get out of the Patreon?
Yeah, so we released probably 32 episodes in 2020, and they're basically conversations between me and authors on different aspects of craft and writing. And actually, I'm stepping the game up in 2021. I'm going to be probably putting out at least 6 episodes a month on Patreon with authors who hang around to talk about their writing lives and talk about different aspects of craft of writing, and we'll do some specials too. It's like a $5 a month kind of thing. It just helps me cover the cost of the podcast.
Awesome. Well, Landis Wade, ladies and gentlemen, Christmas author extraordinaire and host of the Charlotte Readers Podcast. Be sure you go find him. Thanks for coming on the program, man. Merry Christmas to you.
Hey, Merry Christmas to you, Ian, and put those deadlines in your calendar now so you don't miss them. I love that you're already getting ready. You got the tree up. It's not, before Thanksgiving, and you're in the spirit. I really appreciate you having me on the show and guiding me through this discussion. It was really a lot of fun.
Absolutely, man. We'll do it again soon.
And now the news.
All right, thanks again to Landis Wade for coming on the program and sharing a little bit about what he's got going on over there at the Charlotte Readers Podcast. I'm actually a frequent listener to that one, guys, so by all means, go check that out. For you folks who just like to listen to writers talk about what it is that they do, he has some fantastic interviews over there. Really, really, really good stuff. And again, we'll put his website info for his author stuff and his podcast into the show notes, so feel free to go check those out, subscribe. He's on all the usual major platforms, just like we are. But without further ado, I welcome into my usual partners in crime, Dave Daniels, Scott Esther. How we doing this evening, fellas?
Scott, buddy, it's always funny to me. We always talk a little off air. We go through, we do some stuff, and there's the Ian voice you get when there's nothing going on and we're all just BSing back and forth. And then as soon as he hits that button, man, it's, and now my name is Ian J. Malone.
Oh, stop that silliness. Come on. I do not sound like that at all, man. Come on.
And now, sir,
there is no Paul Harvey going on here. Like, not even a little.
in a world where
In a
Both
world
you
where three
guys-
guys drink whiskey and they talk constantly on the radio.
Both of you
See,
guys
there it
can
is.
Kiss it, man.
No, hey, no thanks. Having fun with the new dog toys. I apologize.
Right. Well, there's a joke in there too, but we'll go into that maybe if we ever have a blooper reel on this show. So, okay, well, big news this week, guys. Like huge big news. It's been a while since we've had one of these. But big news day, compliments of the Mouse House. They had a big investor call here within the last week, rolled out a crap ton of new projects. We talk a lot about Star Wars on this show, a lot about Marvel on this show, and lo and behold, we have freaking gobs of new stuff to talk about. So, without further ado, I want to get into these real quick before we actually break this stuff down. I know a lot of people have asked us what are our thoughts on The Mandalorian so far. We've got the season finale coming up this Friday night. This show will actually air before the finale drops. So the guys and I talked about it, and rather than spoil it for anybody who maybe hasn't caught up to that point just yet, we're going to record our thoughts on The Mandalorian Season 2 so far as a post-credit scene. We've done this before. We'll also give kind of our expectations for what we hope they do with the finale, and that will come after the credits. But for now, let's delve into the laundry list of new crap that we got going on in Star Wars and Marvel. Okay, so first things first, we will start with Star Wars projects. And to lead off, we've got Rogue Squadron. That is going to be a brand new film from Wonder Woman 1984 director Patty Jenkins. I'm particularly excited about that one myself. We'll get into that for just a second, here in just a second. Next up on the list, we have Ahsoka. When she rolled out, everybody knows by now that Ahsoka Tano made her live-action debut in The Mandalorian this year. I think it was a foregone conclusion at that point that Rosario Dawson was going to get her own series. That has been confirmed. Next up on the list, we have Rangers of the New Republic, which is a brand new Disney Plus show. Is going to be set in the Mandalorian timeline. It's going to follow people who go out into the burgeoning New Republic and try and keep the peace. Next up on the Star Wars list, new Disney Plus show. You're probably seeing a theme here called The Acolyte. That is going to be set toward the end of the new High Republic era, which takes place about 200 years before The Phantom Menace. Next up on the list for Star Wars, we've got Lando. A lot of mystery around this one. Nobody knows whether it's going to be Billy D. Williams, whether it's going to be John Glover. Maybe they follow the young Indiana Jones approach and do kind of a blend of both, where you have Billy D. Williams kind of narrating this thing while young John Glover plays the younger version of the character. Don't know.
I think it's Donald Glover. We might have to
Donald
get
Glover.
that.
Yep,
Yeah.
John Glover. Sorry, Smallville actor. Donald Glover. Thank you.
Don, John, Bon,
That's right.
Ron.
Definitely not the gay guy from Smallville. All right. Next up, although, young Lando Calrissian was a little shady in his move in Solo. I'm just saying. But next up on
It was a robot, sir. It was a robot fetish. Can we get it straight, please?
I got jokes from Richard Pryor's widow on guys who stick Winkies in toasters, but that's for another time. All right, next up on the list is Obi-Wan Kenobi, starring Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen. I am probably more excited for that one than anything else on the list, but again, we're going to get to that here in just a second. Andor, new series from following Cassian Andor, I believe is his name, character from Rogue One, played by Diego Luna. That's going to be set in the Rebellion time period. Next up is an anime series, The Bad Batch, clone troopers who were introduced in the final season of Clone Wars. Mandalorian Season 3, that was a foregone conclusion. Droid Story, which is not sure if that's a animated show or what that is, but that's going to be a Disney Plus series, follows R2-D2 and C-3PO. Star Wars Visions, which is going to be a series of anime shorts about, not sure what era that's going to be, but it's going to be a short series. And then finally, Taika Waititi, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but anyway, he's got a Star Wars movie coming out. We knew that. They confirmed that, but they didn't tell us anything else about the movie. So that's kind of your big Star Wars hit list. We'll get to Marvel here in just a second, but let's keep things simple. Dave, I'll start with you right off the bat, man. What were the one or two titles on this list when you read it that really caught your attention?
Well, I mean, we always knew Ahsoka was coming.
Right.
I mean, you could figure that coming through. The Obi-Wan thing's been for a while. It's really great that we're adding Hayden Christensen in on that part of it. But the one thing that really, really kind of piqued my interest that I didn't think they were going to do anything with and I thought has a lot of potential is going to be The Bad Batch. They introduced that towards the end of Clone Wars. It was definitely kind of a, for lack of a better way to kind of put it, kind of an A team with the clones kind of a deal.
Right.
I think there's a lot involved with that. They've done great with animation. I love that part of it going through. I really feel like though with the rest of this, it feels like they've just kind of thrown a bunch of stuff against the wall to see what's going to stick. I don't think all of those are going to end up being finalized series, quite honestly.
Any that you're just particularly not looking forward to, like you just don't give a crap.
Well, there's nothing in there that tells me, like Star Wars Visions. There's nothing in it. It's so early in production for that. There's nothing that grabs you on that part of it. Cassian Andor. I'm sure they can do something interesting with that, but he was a bit part going into, with Rogue One. Is it an interesting character? Sure. Can they go back and do some stuff with it? I'm sure, but why? A droid story. Comic relief from the original trilogy.
That's for kids. Like, that's totally for the kiddies who subscribe to Disney Plus. That's what that is.
It's just one of those deals, man. When you're looking at it, what do we do? What's going on? I don't know. Obviously there's some really cool stuff coming out. I just think that it feels like they just kind of went, okay, the Mandalorian's doing well. Let's throw as much crap against the wall as possible. Let's see what sticks, and we'll have some really cool stuff along the way.
Scott, how about you, man? When you first caught a glimmer at this list, what jumped out at you? Like, what of this are you? And there's a lot here, but what are you most excited to see?
So I'll echo Dave's sentiments around the Obi-Wan and the Ahsoka thing. Those have been two projects that I've wanted to see come to life for quite a while, and knowing that Dave Filoni's name is attached specifically to the Ahsoka project, I'm all in at that point. You put his name on something, he's going to be heavily involved in the Bad Batch as well. That's what he grew up on, was the animation side of things. So really excited to see that. The two other things that caught my attention, Rogue Squadron. So I'm interested in that. Patty Jenkins, director, that I think is going to do really well with that project. She, in her little teaser trailer, talked about how she wanted to tell the best fighter pilot story ever told, and she finally has the platform to do that. Her father was a pilot. She grew up around Air Force bases as a kid, watching the pilots come in and out. So, she's got probably a level of care there that may not come with another project leader. And then on the Andor project, I just want to see Alan Tudyk bring K2SO back. That's it.
Right, there you go.
So just put him in front of a mic and a camera and let him go to town. That's it.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm with you on Patty Jenkins. I actually retweeted that teaser video from her on Twitter, so go find that at ENG1. Dude, she's just an amazing filmmaker. I've been a fan of hers for way back, even long before she got into the Wonder Woman outfit, and she's just a really good filmmaker. I'd be remiss if I didn't just say that, high-flying action movies about starfighters and pilots and all that, I can kind of relate to that on some level or another. Kind of stepped into that world myself. So when I watched her little teaser video, and I even said in my tweet, I'm like, this woman can direct a Mako film anytime she wants. Like any day and twice on Sunday, I'd be perfectly fine with that. So go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I'm also interested to see what Taika Waititi does with his project on that Star Wars movie. He's been directing some of the episodes of The Mandalorian, and some of the episodes that have brought a little bit more comedy to the Star Wars universe. He's been behind those. If you guys have been watching the Star Wars galleries on Disney Plus, they've gone through and interviewed a lot of the directors around those different episodes, talked about Dave Filoni and how Jon Favreau are working together and bringing that universe to light. So, anytime you've got directors that are putting the level of care that have gone into The Mandalorian, and then you're going to turn them loose on the universe,
sure,
I feel pretty good that they are going about it the right way.
Yeah, I'm with you. And listen, I'll echo Dave's sentiment. I mean, there are things on this list that I just don't really care about. I don't care about the droid story or whatever you call it. That's not for me. All right, that's for, my 7-year-old niece who is kind of teetering into Star Wars land with the new series. Like, that's for her.
I'll watch it once I get through my priority list.
Right.
Because I'll be starving for, some kind of Star Wars content, but I'm not going to I'm definitely not going to write a blog about it if I don't like it.
Sure. Yeah, I'll be honest with you guys. I don't have a whole lot of desire for a Bad Batch series. I thought they were an interesting team whenever they rolled them out on Clone Wars, but that's not a crew that I'm just like, man, I can't wait to tune in every week to find out what they do with them. There's just not, they're really going to have to do something special with the story to get me to rein in there. Same thing with Visions, for what Dave said, they didn't really roll out a whole lot on what that is or is not, so I don't want to pass a whole lot of judgment there. On the flip side, we talked in a previous podcast about Obi-Wan when it was rumored that Hayden Christensen was going to return. And we kind of talked a bit about what we would like to see out of that if and when it came true. Well, it came true. So for those of you who are just catching this show and you want to go back and kind of hear what we talked about, just check the show notes. About 3 episodes back, I think it was, and you'll kind of catch our thoughts on that. I'm really excited to see how that story plays out. I've long since been on record as saying I think George Lucas is a great visionary for world, and he can write a really compelling story. When you start delving into the stakes that was the story that was told in the prequel trilogy, it's a great, epic story. He's just not that good at writing dialogue, and he's not that great at directing actors. He's too caught up in the bells and the whistles of advancing the technology of filmmaking and animation and CGI. And he cares about the tech of film more than he does story at times. And I think that's why the prequels ultimately failed. It's not because they were a bad story. It's because they just frankly didn't have a great storyteller at the helm who knew how to blend story with a camera and tell a compelling story. Some people are going to call that blasphemy. It's fine. Do whatever you want. But I digress. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that, the best Star Wars films were never directed by George Lucas. So take that for what it's worth. I will go ahead.
I will say this as well going through. Since we have Hayden Christensen in, and it's going through, and you have an Ahsoka character, one of the most compelling relationships in the Clone Wars was that dynamic between the two of them.
Yes.
Let's either bring Ahsoka over to Obi-Wan, or let's bring Hayden Christensen as Darth Vader over to the Ahsoka. I guess you really can't because he's gone at that point with that part of it. But let's bring Ahsoka over.
You could as a flashback, but that'd be about it.
Maybe as a flat, yeah. But let's bring her over to be a part of that story with Obi-Wan. I mean, I think there's so much with that trio. I think there's a plan for that.
Through. I mean, they're gonna put the template for Rosario Dawson and the Star Wars stuff that Netflix did with Marvel. All right, Claire Temple was she was the night nurse, was kind of like the crossover character for all of your series, for Daredevil, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and then obviously when everything came together for the Defenders, which, as an aside, I went back and started rewatching Daredevil, and man, that show still kicks ass. They need to bring that one back and then some. Sidebar to the sidebar, rumor has it Charlie Cox is going to be in Spider-Man 3. Again, another rumor for another podcast for another time, not today. Hayden Christensen back as Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader. I'm just interested to see what that's going to look like under the direction of another filmmaker. I've seen Hayden Christensen in some other stuff not called Star Wars, and he's not a half bad little actor. So give him a script, put a director behind the camera who really knows how to bring a performance out of him, and let's see what that looks like. And you might get some of the drama that you got because, and Dave alluded to this earlier, the stuff that you got, the relationships that you got between Anakin and other characters, but specifically Ahsoka and Obi-Wan, was amazing in the Clone Wars series. And when you watch the Clone Wars, it completely reframes the way in which you look at the prequel trilogy. The greatest thing that ever happened to George Lucas's prequel trilogy is the Clone Wars. Because when you watch Clone Wars and then go back and watch Episode 3, it actually has weight because of the story that you got from the Clone Wars series. Let's now see how that works with Hayden Christensen in this series in live action. I want to see how this is going to turn out. I'm also stoked about the Ahsoka series like everybody else. Another one, this is kind of my dark horse pick out of this, The Acolyte. I like Star Wars that steps into areas that I have not seen before. One of the reasons why I don't care about the Bad Batch is because I've seen everything I need to see out of the pre-A New Hope, kind of that time between Sith and New Hope. Right? I don't care about another Andor, the Rogue One prequel guy, Cassian Andor. I don't care. I mean, again, Dave said it. He's kind of a B character in Rogue One. I've seen everything out of him I needed. If the droid come back is the best thing that you can say for that show, then you don't have much of a show for me. I like eras that do stuff that I haven't seen before. Acolyte has the potential to give us that. That's set in Disney's New High Republic era, which is about 200 years before Phantom Menace. And I don't know what it is, but I'm interested to find out. So I think that could be cool. So, all right, well, let's shift. Oh, somebody was about to say something.
I just took a deep breath, sir.
It was drama. It was dramatic.
All I was going to say was someone answered their text messages because we keep getting those coming through.
True story. That is
Yeah,
not mine.
that would be me. Okay,
Mine's
the guy who's been quiet for a little while.
Mine is the Jawa sound effect, so I can tell you that's not me.
Is your wife texting from the kitchen? Hey, are you done yet?
No, but I did text her to bring me another bourbon.
There you go.
See, sir, you need to plan better. My bottle's sitting in front of me, and I still have enough ice to probably get about a third glass out of this.
Nice.
Dave's fiance is not there to bring him more bourbon, so that's kind
That
of
is
what
correct.
That's about. He planned ahead out of necessity, not out of chivalry.
Hey, I'm okay with that. It just means that I'm thinking, sir. That's all that matters. I'm always thinking ahead.
All right, moving on to Marvel projects because there was news there. Disney Plus going all in on more shows for the Disney going all in again on Disney Plus shows. I said a second ago, man, you're starting to see a trend on this, and we've talked about this on this show too. What is movies going to look like now moving forward? I mean, the Pandora's box has been opened on streaming. You got Warner Brothers now saying they're going to release every one of their new movies in 2021 simultaneously day of on HBO Max. What's that going to look like moving forward? And now we're starting to get a glimpse of that. So, okay, Marvel projects. We have Secret Invasion, which is going to be a new series starring Nick Fury. That's going to delve into kind of your war between the Skrulls and the other guys, the shapeshifter guys. I don't know, comic people will correct me on that. But it's a Nick Fury series. It's really all you need to know. Ironheart, which is the story of Riri Williams. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Chick Iron Man, like genius female character, builds a suit of armor like Iron Man's, goes off, and I don't know if she actually picks up the Iron Man mantle, but she's a female Iron Man. So Ironheart, that's what that's about. Armor Wars, which will star Don Cheadle reprising his role as Rhodey. I'm actually really excited about this one. We can get into it if you guys want. But that's going to explore what happens when Tony Stark's worst nightmare comes true, and that is that his armor finds its way into the wrong hands. And people start doing bad crap with that. War Machine's got to show up and rescue the day, and that'll be that. But again, that one will start Don Cheadle. I Am Groot, mini-series short on stories involving Groot, self-explanatory. She-Hulk, we have touched upon this. Tatiana Maslany from Orphan Black is going to be playing the lead character. Bruce Banner's niece, I believe it is, who gets a blood transfusion, and with it, Hulk powers. So She-Hulk. We also got new trailers for, and obviously these have been long known, Loki. We also got a new trailer for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and the What If series. That's the one that has my attention. But Scott, I'm going to give you lead this time around. Out of the Marvel stuff that came out, was there anything that really kind of got your juices boiling here that you're excited about?
I'm always interested to see what what's going on with Nick Fury.
Okay.
He seems to pop up in some interesting places. Not to mention, I think Ben Mendelsohn is going to bring his character back, which is going to be always fun to see. I think I like him. The I Am Groot stuff should be fun for the kids to get involved in that. I'm not sure that I'm too over the moon about the She-Hulk. Be interested to see what the Ironheart is all about. Armor Wars as well. But seeing the new trailer for Loki, that's the one at the top of my list. I think he's just such a good character that you can do so much fun stuff with.
Yep, and the perfect actor playing him too.
Oh yeah, he
great.
is crushing it. He is crushing it right now. So
yep.
That was probably my priority list. Falcon and Winter Soldier, I'm interested in seeing that too, but I'd put that as a kind of a far number 2 behind Loki.
Okay. Dave, how about you, man? What off this list really got you churning?
Definitely Loki and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Those
okay.
are, I think the Falcon and the Winter Soldier looks like it's going to be a really good movie. Looks like there's a decent story going into it. It's not just a continuation of, hey, let's pick up the mantle and go. It's him, the struggle, what happens, trying to live up to being in some big shoes. I'm thinking, though, that if you will swap a couple of words with those first two, looking for Secret Heart and Iron Invasion, and then you'll just end up with with Armor Wars as it is. And I really feel like Disney just throws as much crap against the wall to see what will stick as possible.
Right.
And okay, Groot's cute. Let's do a commercial there. Let's do a cartoon there. Oh, hey, look, let's throw that. Hey, it just feels like let's throw as much against the wall since we have everyone's attention. Everyone has to be home. Let's see if we get some ratings. The rest of it we'll cancel, and we'll keep the rest of it going through. And it just feels like that's kind of what they're doing again.
Right.
They've done it with Disney. With Star Wars. Now it looks like they're doing it again with Marvel. Just focus on some stuff.
Right.
Grab 2 or 3 and focus on something. Get your core audience. I mean, it looks like all they're looking to do is just kind of push up their subscriptions, which if you read their press release and the stuff that they put out, is the first thing that they start talking about. They start talking about how many subscribers they have. Oh, we've gone from this to this, and we're going to do this, and we got this going through. And if you look at all of this coming out, it really looks like that's what they're focusing on. Let's see if we can add as many subscribers as possible as we throw as much crap against the wall as we possibly can. Are we going to look at it to see what it looks like? Absolutely. Are we going to give it most of this more than 1 or 2 episodes? Probably not.
And in their defense, I mean, basically what they're doing is they're building shows for different levels of audiences so that they can sustain their audience, their overall viewership for years and years to come. I mean, the gamble is that you're going to start kids on a show like Droid Story and I Am Groot at, 5 years old, 6 years old. He, that's awesome. That's cute. You're going to love it. And then as they get older, they look around and go, oh, well, that's Star-Lord. I know him. Or that's Gamora. Well, those are the Guardians of the Galaxy. Well, I know them because I watched I Am Groot. Well, now I want to watch the Guardians of the Galaxy series. Well, that's the Thor guy. Well, now I want to watch the Thor movies. Well, now we've got Love and Thunder. I want to watch that. Well, Spider-Man could be in that. Well, you mean we got Spider-Man movies? Next thing you know, they're in their 40s doing a podcast talking about Marvel movies, which that's not familiar at all. Like, not even a little.
Who are those losers?
So anyway, it's smart. It's brilliant marketing. It's why they are the company and the Goliath that they are, and that's that. So I mean, listen, I take nothing away from them on that. Do what you got to do. My only thing is, I feel no obligation to watch all of this stuff. Like, I know people who, if it's out there and it's Star Wars, it's got to be seen. If it's Marvel, it's got to be seen. If it's DC, it's got to be seen. I don't, man. I have no problem cherry picking things and going, yep, I think that looks cool. Nope, that looks stupid. I don't have any desire to watch that whatsoever. I don't care if it's got a Marvel logo on it. I think it looks dumb. So speaking of things I'm excited about, Armor Wars, I like Don Cheadle. Like, I really, really like Don Cheadle as Rhodey. That was kind of one of those instances you had, what was his name? Terrence Howard played the character in Iron Man, and then they recast him with Cheadle moving forward. I've always been a Don Cheadle guy. Like, ever since the first Ocean's 11 film, I've liked Don Cheadle. And so anytime I get him as War Machine, I think it's cool. He's always played second fiddle to Tony Stark, and now he's going to get a chance to step up front and center, and I think Cheadle will rock that. So I'm excited to see what that's all about. Obviously, Loki, Tom Hiddleston, that's a home run. I'll watch that all day long. Falcon and Winter Soldier, I'm definitely interested to see what it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a cool story. My only worry with Falcon and the Winter Soldier is we live in a time, and I'm very much in this crowd, I'm exhausted with politics. I don't want any politics and anything to do with anything that's not politics. I keep an eye on it because it matters to me. I'm a dude in my 40s, all right? So I've got investment funds and things that what happens in the political world affects me. And so I try and stay as informed as I think I need to keep tabs on that, and that's that. That does not include my entertainment. And I've gone off ad nauseum about how I don't want it in my sports and all of that, and this kind of falls into that wheelhouse. Watching this trailer, there's some definite political undertones in there about, America and where we're at as a nation and how we're divided and how we need something that can unite us and get behind, and it's going to be very clear that America as a nation is not in favor of having Sam Wilson as Captain America for whatever reason that may be. They've got another guy that they want, and there's a lot of threads that you can play with there politically that, frankly, I just don't want to watch in a television show right now. Having said that, I love these characters of Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes. I love the actors that play them, and so I'm very much interested to see how that's going to play out. So I'm definitely ready to give it a shot. What If actually really has my interest for this, for the same reason that The Acolyte does, and that is it's stuff that I've never seen before. What If, for those who aren't familiar with that comic book series, is an anthology series that follows the what if this would have played out this way, and they give you an alternate ending, like an alternate spin on a storyline that you know very well. So, what if Thanos would have been one of the good guys? What would have happened? What would have happened if Peggy Carter would have become Captain America instead of Steve Rogers? They play out all of these kind of what-if scenarios in this anthology story in the comics. Now they're bringing that to the small screen with an anthology animation series, but they're bringing back all the original actors to voice the parts. So you're going to have Chris Evans, you're going to have Robert Downey Jr., you're going to have Hemsworth, you're going to have all those folks. So really interested. The trailer was really intriguing. I'm excited to see that. She-Hulk, again, there's an audience for that. It's just not me, so good on them. I Am Groot, same thing. Ironheart, same thing. Secret Invasion, I don't give a crap about because I don't like Sam Jackson. Like, Sam Jackson is the same character in every freaking movie he's in and has been since Pulp Fiction. Like, that's all he does. He has one speed. Like, I have seen. That is a tasty burger, Mr. Alien, sir. Might I have a taste of your soda to wash down this tasty burger? Like, that's what Sam Jackson does. And I've seen him for 30-some-odd years. I don't need a television show with him. I would have been much happier if they had cast my man Jonas Blaine from the Unit as Nick Fury. That's just my own 2 cents. So that's my spiel on Marvel. Anybody else got anything else they want to add to this before we start to close it down and head for White Flag?
That is indeed a tasty burger.
He's the same guy, man. Yes, and I hope they burn in hell. Like, that's Sam Jackson. That's what he does.
And that's what you bring him in for. That's exactly what he's supposed to be every time. And
the guy
that's
has
okay.
the acting depth of a petri dish, man. I'm just saying. I don't need an 8-episode, 12-episode television series starring the same guy that I've seen since 1990.
No, I just smoked 3 cigarettes and downed a glass of bourbon.
I'm a Mormon. Right, that's what I need out of Sam Jackson. Long Kiss Goodnight. Way to dig way back into the archives.
See?
That, sir. Well
There
done.
it is.
Those are Newports, by the way.
I've
I
watched
thought you were going to talk
movies.
about him shepherding John McClane through the city.
No. No one talks about Die Hard 4, sir. No one talks about Die Hard 4.
That was 3. Now, that was Die Hard with a Vengeance. Legend has it, by the way, that was supposed to be a Lethal Weapon film. And studio took a pass, and so they repurposed it into a Die Hard film and brought in Sam Jackson, and that's how you got that. And that became Die Hard with a Vengeance.
You want to know why they passed on that?
Why did they pass on that?
Because it sucked.
Jeremy Irons wasn't bad. Die Hard really went off the rails, everything beyond 3. That's just non-watchable. But
Did they not drive a car through a helicopter in flight?
something like that, yeah. But
That's
you work
jumping
around
a
it.
shark, sir.
You work around
There's
it.
a shark that was jumped. As
still-
a matter of fact, that helicopter was probably named Shark.
We still wanted to believe that John McClane was cool at that point. You weren't ready to cash out on John McClane yet. Now, by the time you got to him jumping on the backs of airplanes and, facing off against cyber criminal Raylan Givens and all that, then you started to get a little redonkulous. But you still wanted to believe that John McClane was awesome and with a vengeance, and so you would overlook certain stupidities. That's all I'm putting out for that.
That said, though, he was done smoking by 3. So once he's done smoking, they needed to be finished with that series.
Oh, good Lord. All right, another day, another time, another podcast. White Flag, here we go.
White Flag.
So White Flag is where we close out a segment talking about the things that we are looking ahead to, things that are on our radar. In this instance, we're going to call that a little thing that we refer to as 2021. This is going to be our final episode for 2020. After that, we're going to take up a bit of a hiatus for a while. So going to be a minute before our next episode. But guys, I don't know, honestly, that anybody has looked more forward to New Year's than this year. So a lot of stuff to look forward to in 2021, whether that's society at large, things that are happening around the country, whether it's sports, whether it's movies, television series, books, things that we follow. 2021 at this point is just a giant clean slate, and I don't think we can get to it fast enough. Dave, I'll start with you, man. 2021, what is on your docket? What are you amped up to get to? What are you charging at?
I'm just excited to finally put a bullet in this just scarred mare of a year that we can finally be done with and go through. I'm looking forward to getting back to somewhat of a normal. I want to go see a movie on the big screen. I want to get out and see a live show.
Yep.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yep.
I want to live life again. I don't want to have to be worried about wearing a mask everywhere I go.
Yep.
And not that that's going to end January 1st, by the way. But I'm looking forward to trying to get back to something normal. I got a brand new puppy. I want to take her around and get out and about and teach her how things go and make her a part of what we have going on here. But for the most part, the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to is April 2021. I will be getting married, and I am over the moon, excited. Scott, your invitation is in the mail, but your fan has gotten his save the date.
Scott, 2021, man.
For me, I guess it is just a sense of returning to normalcy, or what we considered normal before that. I want to see a non-interrupted hockey schedule. I want to see a baseball season that starts in April. I want to see FSU's basketball team finally play in a tournament, which they're about to tip off here in about an hour. So
Man,
we got to wrap this thing up.
We got a kid that can play now.
That's true. I'm so there's just a lot of things. I'm ready for a normal college football season where major conferences don't have to bend the rules to get their top team in so they can cash in on television money. Just all kinds of things that I'm ready to get back to. But I'm actually really looking forward to Christmas dinner coming up, because I've already started planning that out. We're going with some steaks this year, probably some bacon wrapped scallops, mashed potatoes,
Attaboy.
some vegetables. So we're gonna do it up right.
Attaboy, man.
And I got a tip from somebody about a new whiskey I got to try. So I got to track that down up here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I will echo the same sentiment as everybody else. I'm just ready to put a bullet in the butt-ass sorry year that was 2020. Listen, there's been some stuff about 2020 that I've been very grateful for. I've dreamed really since I was a teenager about what it would be like to live on the water, specifically a lake. And 2020 was the year I finally got to do that. And it's been a great time as places to be, kind of locked in, homebodied out go. You could do much worse than where I'm living now. And I'm very grateful for that. My family and I have had a blast. But now we're ready to kind of segueing into Dave's point. Now we're ready to turn the page to enjoying the events and the things and the occasions that, in a lot of respect, are why we wanted to buy a place like this. And that is to be able to have people over. If you take nothing away from us on this show, guys, it is that we love a dadgum party. All right? Whether it's a tailgate, whether it's a dinner party, whether it's a poker game or whatever, we love to get the people together, pour some good drinks, eat some good food, turn on some good tunes, kick your feet up, and relax. Right? That is what we are all about on this podcast. It resonates in everything that we do. Common thread is people, crowd, people. And I'm ready to do more of that. Like Dave said, the whole mask thing, that's not going to go away in January, unfortunately. But, thankfully now we have a light at the end of the tunnel. We got vaccines starting to make rounds. And hopefully by late spring, early summer, we'll all be in a position where we can get our hands on one of those. And life can start to return to normal. Because you know what? I got a kick-ass minor league baseball stadium about 15 minutes down the road from me here. And I'm really ready to go check that dude out. I posted on social media the other day looking at the lineup for the Carolina Country Music Festival in Myrtle Beach next summer. Dude, freaking Luke Combs, Eric Church, Jake Owen. Ton of people going to be there for 3 days on the sand, South Carolina. Awesome. I'm ready. And that means that we need to get through some of this stuff. So that's, when these guys say they're ready for 2021 to get there for those reasons, I'm very much in that boat with them. Big time. So another thing I'm looking forward to is the NASCAR season. See if, frankly, my freaking guy can can close out a championship, because this new format is just not quite for him. Also, quick shout out to Corey LaJoy, friend of the program. He made his announcement, as was teased. He is driving the 7 car next year for Spire Motorsports. Going to be tough sledding for that team for a year, but I think in time they've got some stuff that they can roll out. So, all right, with all of that said, thank you to everybody who's come on board to listen to this program for this past year before. Good grief, man, we've been doing this for going on almost 2 years now. Thank you so much to everybody who supports this show. For those who haven't done it already, leave us a review. We say it every episode to close things out. Those 5 stars mean the world to us. So Google Podcast, Stitcher, wherever you listen, if they'll let you leave 5 stars in a review, do it to it. We greatly appreciate it. Also, don't forget to check us out online and social media, dudesinhyperspace.com, Facebook group Dudes in Hyperspace Podcast, and at the Hyper Dudes on Twitter. I got through that without stuttering, which totally makes me awesome. Thank you to Dave Daniels. Thank you to Scott Esther. For the peeps who want to hear what we think about The Mandalorian, stick around. We're going to tackle that in our post-credit scene. Otherwise, you guys have a Merry Christmas and awesome 2021, and we will see you abound the bend. See ya.
See ya.
Peace.
All right, guys, Mandalorian Season 2, it's almost in the can. We got 1 episode left this Friday, and that is the finale. So let's start from the top so far. And, Scott, I'll give you dibs on this one to lead off. So far, Mandalorian Season 2, there were a lot of expectations coming into this. What have you thought? Like, has it met what you wanted to see?
I think it definitely started to get there. I was glad to see that they broke out of the, hey, I'm going to travel to this world to see if I can find the place to drop the child off, and oh, by the way, I've got to help these people out, and now once I've done that, I can move on to the next world where we wash, rinse, and repeat. But they did pick up a little bit more, and it's steamrolling along pretty well. I'm glad that they brought back some returning characters. Bill Burr as Mayfeld. Love that character.
He was awesome.
Love that they brought him back. So yeah, it's going along at a pretty good clip, and I watch it with my daughter, and I don't know how many times I turn to her each Friday and go, "This is so good. Oh, it's just so good." So looking forward to this Friday and seeing how they wrap up the season.
Dave, Mando Season 2, the road so far. What say you?
It's been fun so far. By the way, the Mandalorian Season 2 is not the only thing almost in the can. When we're finished here, I'm headed there myself.
Thanks for sharing.
Hey, you know what? This is a personal place. I'm here to share secrets.
He's also
I'm
trying
here
to drop
share
off the
my
baby. So you have
downhill, fellas. Come on.
You have to
We're
get
professionals here.
You have to get the baby to his people. I'm just trying to get it through the tubes, sir. That's how this goes. I've enjoyed it so far. It's been great. I like Bill Burr. It's been fun seeing him come back through. It's been an interesting season so far. I wish we had gotten a little more of the Black Saber. I wish we had gotten a little more of that storyline kind of going through. A little more Ahsoka Tano. I know that they were just doing some teases to kind of get her going, but I really wish we had gotten a little more of that. Obviously, there's a lot more to go through. It's good. I've enjoyed it. And it's always good when you can look at a TV series and say, man, I really wish they had given me more. I wish they'd given me more.
Right.
So looking forward to it. I'm one of those people that while we can kind of guess where it might be going from here, I just want to sit back and enjoy the storytelling. Let's not try to guess anything. Let's just see what they throw at us. Let's see how things turn out. Just looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, I can follow along with that. I said when we kind of did our preview for Season 2 that what I wanted to see was, them kind of get away from a little bit of the adventure of the week type of stuff, which is pretty indicative of a Season 1 of a show, and start to really connect all of that to the major mythology that is Star Wars. And I think, by and large, they have done that very well in Season 2. I'm with you. I wanted a little bit more Ahsoka Tano than just the one-off episode that I got. But, again, and we talked about this in our earlier segment, they're getting ready to spin this off into one giant connected universe. So, it's you're going to have stuff going on with her. That's all that was there to do, was to set her up for her own show. And you got to know, the big villain of all of this is going to be Grand Admiral Thrawn. Like, that's where this is headed. I don't think they're gonna touch that in the finale for Mandalorian. I could be wrong. I think he's going to be the boogeyman in the background, and that's going to be the big build, is getting to Grand Admiral Thrawn. And that's probably not going to happen for a few years. They're going to roll out the Ahsoka series, maybe the Knights of the New Republic series, all of that, Mandalorian Season 3, all of that's going to be set around that same time period. And it will build to a giant crossover event whereby, Thrawn is the big villain, very much like Sigourney Weaver was in The Defenders. And that'll be that. All in all, I've been happy with it. I really like the Bill Burr character. Believe it or not, man, the guy delivered a little bit of drama for you. He was funny, ha-ha, for his first time around in Season 1, but they brought him back and really gave that character some gravitas. He had some chops, and I was very pleased with what they did with him. I hope he comes back. I really do, because I think the show's better with him on it. Was glad to see Cara Dune come back around. I think Gina Carano does a really nice job as that character. You buy her as, a female action star that can really get in there and mix it up. There's not a doubt in my mind. When I look at her, I see her presence on screen, I think, yep, she belongs exactly where she's at. And there's a lot of chatter that she's going to be a big player in the Rangers of the New Republic series. I hope that's true. I think she definitely deserves a crack at something with a little bit more of a lead to it. She's earned that. As far as where the finale is headed, the big question for me is who's the Jedi? When Ahsoka said take him to the Typhoon planet or whatever, I forget how you pronounce that. It showed up in the expanded universe as like the original birthplace of the Jedi. And this is the first time it's been brought into Disney's canon, was, last episode on The Mandalorian, or 2 episodes ago. She said, put him on the stone. If a Jedi comes to him, you'll know that he's going to be trained. But there's not a whole lot of us left. I think the big question that's on everybody's mind is that going to be Ezra Bridger? The last time we saw Ahsoka Tano, she was going off to find Ezra Bridger. We don't quite know when this episode of The Mandalorian is set. Is that before or after that final scene of Star Wars Rebels? If it's after, is Ezra Bridger going to show up? Is he going to be the guy? If not, who else are we looking at here? That's the big thing I'm looking for in the finale, is to see if that happens. Dave, how about you? What do you want out of the finale?
I don't know. I want everything.
That narrows it down.
Everything. I want a little bit of a conclusion. I want a little bit of a cliffhanger. I want to look forward to the next season, which probably isn't going to come for 2 years since we've been stuck in COVID. I want everything. I really think that we're going to end up with a little. The storytellers here are so good at being able to weave a little bit of new and a little bit of old, and just be able to kind of put it together so well. The Boba Fett stuff that's been going on.
Awesome.
Good grief, man.
Dude, when Slave 1 showed up, I was like, I had no idea it was coming. I jumped off my couch. It was great.
They liked that so much, they blew up the other dude's ship.
Yep.
Let's just go ahead and get around in Slave 1. And then when you actually have better armor this last episode for Boba than you did the last time he was on screen.
Well, in fairness now, they had to give him a little bit more room in that armor to be able to maneuver. He has a little bit more room to that armor. It took a little bit more Beskar to build this Boba Fett's armor than the last Boba Fett's armor.
So somebody been eating some of the galactic ho-hos? Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, a little bit. Hey, you know what, man? My man can still wing it. So whatever. Eat all the ho-hos you want, dude. You're still a badass.
I just want to see a story. And they've done so well so far. I don't want to give myself anything to look forward to. I just want to enjoy the story as it comes through.
Scott, how about you, man? Finale, what do you want to see?
I'd say if they give us a surprise like they did at the end of season 1 with the Darksaber, I'd be all for that.
Okay.
Nobody saw the Darksaber coming, at the end of season 1, and so we're right after Return of the Jedi. So we've got this, time between that and I guess the first movie of the final trilogy, or however you want to describe the last three movies. So there's all kinds of stuff to look towards. You've got General Thrawn or Admiral Thrawn. You've got are the Knights of Ren getting started up. What's going on with does Han Solo have anything that he's got going on? You've got Leia and Luke that are still Luke's going on to start training Jedis. Is he the Jedi that's going to come back? Is Mark Hamill going to show up in a season? So
Mark Hamill
who
is
knows?
out, dude. You can take that to the bank, man. That guy, unless he just watches The Mandalorian and has a complete change of heart, that guy is so turned off with Star Wars because of the fan base and because of the way they treated Luke Skywalker. Like, he said it all before Last Jedi when he's like, I vehemently and fundamentally disagree with everything you've done with this character. Like, that's a direct quote that he said to the director and the writer of the script of that film. And he had to swallow that pill. And to his credit, I mean, the guy went out and he tried to sell it from there on out, and he tried to walk it back. But he was done. And he's been very vocal that he didn't like the way they treated the original trilogy characters. He wasn't really a fan. And he's flown the torch as best that he can. But my guess is you will never see Mark Hamill near anything else Star Wars again because he got so
even
sour.
if you don't, I would say even if you don't bring him in to play the part and you actually put him on screen, but the acknowledgement inside the universe that this guy still exists and he is still
Right.
the top Jedi. I think the whispers of bringing that in, whispers of bringing in what the main characters from the original trilogy are doing, 5, 10, 15 years post, Empire falling. So, I don't know if that becomes part of it. The books go in a different direction with Admiral Thrawn and Luke on their adventures and how they connected over time. Who knows? There's just a lot of stuff to work with there that can maybe help close the gap between Jedi and the next movie.
If you want kind of a glimpse of, I think, where this could be going, and we'll keep an eye on things after the finale, obviously on Friday. But if you want kind of an inkling of where they're drawing some of their inspiration for this, go back and read Tim Zahn's original Heir to the Empire trilogy. All right, those are the books that came out in, it was like 92, 93, that originally introduced Grand Admiral Thrawn. And until 2015, 16, whenever it was that Force Awakens came out, that was regarded as the episodes 7, 8, and 9 of the Star Wars trilogy. That is set about 5 years after Return of the Jedi. Grand Admiral Thrawn is a Chiss warlord, Chiss, Imperial admiral who rose up through the ranks to fight all the odds to become a bigwig in the Imperial Navy. And he circles the wagons with what's left of the Empire after Endor and puts the Navy back together into a semblance of order to go overthrow the New Republic. Mandalorian, set 5 years after the events of Return of the Jedi. Now we know that Grand Admiral Thrawn is out there somewhere. Just saying. If you kind of want a little bit of an inkling of where that could be going, they've been pulling a lot of stuff lately from the old expanded universe, and that could be it. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've read those books, but I'd have to brush back up on those. I just remember there being some interesting storylines and stuff that Thrawn to me had never been introduced until I read those books. So I'm thinking who is this guy now?
Yeah.
All I knew was the original trilogy. So who is this other guy that seems to be carrying so much weight?
Well, they've I can say this to Disney's credit, they've done him well when they brought him into the new canon. And listen, they brought in Tim Zahn, the guy who created the character, to shepherd that through. So I mean, Zahn did all of the advising on that when they introduced him in Star Wars Rebels, and then they brought him in to write new standalone Thrawn novels to flesh that story out. And he's been behind that all the way through. Actually had a really good conversation with him at Dragon Con a number of years ago. He taught a writer's workshop that I attended, and it was right after the announcement had been made that Disney had bought Lucasfilm and that J.J. Abrams was coming on board to direct a new film. And naturally, everybody wanted to know, is Thrawn and Mara Jade going to be in it? And he's like, I honestly have no idea. He's like, they don't tell us anything. All we know is that they bought the They've bought the franchise and they can do with it whatever they want. And I haven't gotten any calls for anything. And at the time he had not, but eventually that's what they did. So, all right, kind of bringing this to a close, fellas. Parting shots, anything you want to say about The Mandalorian? All in all, man, I'm giving this season an A-. There's a couple little nitpicky things that I could say I wish they would have done here or there, but all in all, man, as season 2s of a show go, I think it's done exactly what it needed to be. The only real throwaway episode it had was the big effing spiders in the cave, because that's always a thing you got to have in sci-fi, apparently. But other than that, I mean, every episode has brought with it something that I needed to know. It's left me wanting for the next episode in the next week. And, I mean, unless they just flat run the plane into the side of the mountain on Friday, I'm going to be sad that I've got to wait a whole nother year to get more of this after this weekend. So all in all, I call that a win. I think they've done a good job. Dave, how about you, man? Parting shots, Mandalorian.
It's same, man. Just looking forward to it. I just really want to enjoy the episode. Just kind of go through and figure out where we go from here. Hopefully we only have to wait a year. Hopefully we don't have to worry about them not having film more episodes while we're waiting for this COVID thing to go out.
Same here. Let's close it out right and get cracking on that next season.
Game on, game on. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tagging. Go ahead.
As a quick tease, sir, I just happened to be surfing through the interwebs while you gentlemen were speaking on the subject. And it looks like Disney Plus and Disney has been running some surveys about some shows that may need to be brought back, including Firefly.
I'll believe that when I see it for a whole host of different reasons. And honestly,
There's a whole lot of money involved with that. That's what Disney's all about.
I think they will look to the Netflix Marvel shows before they do that. Now that they have the rights back to Daredevil, and they will have the rights coming back shortly to Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist. Not that anybody gives a crap about Iron Fist. I would expect that those will be back in some capacity, particularly now that Disney owns Hulu, because Disney owns freaking everything. But anyway, all right, people. Well, thanks as always for listening to the show, and have a wonderful Christmas, wonderful New Year's, and we'll see you back in 2021. See ya.